Are you pointing at us? We're live. I think we're live.
We're live?
We're live.
We're live.
We don't have lights on though. Let's probably
Oh,
turn
wow.
those on and turn the air off.
We're amateurs. Amateurs. One moment.
He just turned it fully off.
Completely. He's going to shut it down. Shut it down.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Shift on Instagram Live. We're really glad you're here. We're excited to wrap up this series today. And I know we've been wanting to kind of start off our lives with like a little fun question just to kind of change things up and to let people kind of join in. But
Yeah.
what was the question for today?
The question for today, and because I'm calling Aaron out and he can get mad at me later, should Aaron shave his mustache or not?
No.
Put it in the comments.
I'm not shaving it
Oh,
off.
gosh.
I won't shave until now. I'm not shaving until next year because of it.
Oh.
I'm going to let it grow completely.
Ugh, I
And
do not like
We're
it.
going to twist the ends. And
Anyways, so the real question.
you're putting that in the comments right now.
Uh,
Back me up, somebody.
the real question, which one would you rather go without? A cell phone
The mustache? Is that the
or
question?
Aaron's mustache? A cell phone or your personal vehicle or a vehicle. If you can't drive yet, maybe when you get a car. Would you rather go out without your phone or without a car?
I would rather go without my phone
Same.
because I don't like walking.
What?
I'm not
That's
a
the
fan
reason
of walking
why.
places. With a phone, you can call an Uber.
That's true.
Unless they vote on certain things, then you can't anymore.
Oh, that's true too. I would go without a phone too.
Phone for sure for me.
It's very
And
consuming.
I don't have to worry about it. I can just get an iPod Touch for
Although
Wi-Fi
I don't know
purposes.
how that would go since our church is fully online. So
That's why I said iPod Touch for Wi-Fi.
that doesn't count.
Okay.
Anyways,
I think that'll do.
all right.
That you put me on blast and all.
Shave your mustache.
Well, welcome, guys. We're continuing our series. We're actually wrapping up our series today. Great. Bees flossing on the side. We're what? You're just dancing. We're continuing, actually closing out our series today. Great expectations, and I just want to quickly go through kind of almost like a recap of what the last few weeks have been. In week 1, Vianey kicked us off with, we wrongly assume that God will protect us from suffering if we follow him with enough faith. And in that message, we learned that when the realities of life hit us, we often believe God has failed either us or we have failed him. But in reality, what really happens is that he's with us whether we have enough faith or we don't have a lot of faith, but he's always in our presence when darkness or life hits us really hard. He's always there. And in week 2, the assumption that we made, the wrong assumption that we talked about, is we wrongly assume that God has an earthly reward waiting for us if we obey him. So he's got this thing. They're drinking my drinks and my monsters, and fantastic day we're having today, everyone. We wrongly assume, this is live, this is how you see it. The assumption in week 2 that we talked about, we wrongly assume that God has an earthly reward, some physical reward here on us for earth if we just obey him. And we learned that when we realize that the long-term nature of God's plan, we can find strength to follow him into the future because we have hope in his plan and the party up there, just getting a ticket to the party in heaven rather than having physical rewards here. And last week, V talked about this assumption that we make is we wrongly assume that God is distant or uncaring and he's too unreachable to truly care about our lives. But what we learned is that when we realize that God reveals himself as present and loving, we can enter in a deeper relationship, a more honest relationship with him. And today, to wrap things up, one of the things that I wanted to talk about and our final part of this series, I thought this series was really interesting, but last one I have for you, get ready to write this down. is we wrongly assume that God is primarily interested in our individual good. We wrongly assume that God is interested in just our individual personal good. So, with that being said, the Bible is full of stories about God caring for people and families and even nations. And there's a particular story that I want to talk about right now, is that God singles out Abraham and calls him and his family into a relationship with him. And in Genesis 12 it says, God told Abraham, leave your country, your family, and your father's home for a land that I will show you. I'll make you a great nation and bless you. I'll make you famous. You'll be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you. Those who curse you, I'll curse. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you. And thousands of years later, Jesus speaks to his followers and reminds them that God knows and cares for them, and he even knows every single hair on your head. That's how much he cares and loves you. And as we just saw earlier in the series, in the earlier parts that we talked about, God is not far from you or me. He knows and feels the intimate details and emotions that each and every one of us feels. And too often we think of God's love for us as the gift. And where it can be, that's not where we should really stop. Because his plan for us and his plan in the full picture is so much bigger than that. We forget, in the story we just read, we forget that God called Abraham individually. He created a nation from his offspring in order to bless the entire world. So he says, Abraham, I'm going to bless you individually, but that's not why I'm doing this. That was the point. And that's where we get caught up, because we wrongly assume that he just wants to bless us individually just because. And he can and he will, but at the end of the day, God's plan is so much bigger. It says in order to bless the entire world, he created a nation from his offspring. And in John wrote that Jesus' death was not for one person, for one group, for one religion, for anything like that. It says in John 3:16, a verse that a lot of people know. Go ahead and put that in the comments for me. John 3:16. It says, for this is how much God loved the world. He gave his one and only unique son as a gift. Check this part out. So now everyone who believes in him will never perish, but experience everlasting life. The blessing we receive in knowing God individually, and the gifts he gives us individually, is for a purpose. And if you don't get anything out the rest of this message, remember that the blessing we receive in knowing God, and if he blesses us individually, is for a bigger purpose. We are called to spread that blessing. And many ancient cultures and believed in different deities and different idols, like they were guardians, or they were angels assigned to protect them and fight for them, or one person or one group of people. How often do Christians think this way? In the warmth of our personal relationship, we just assume God is exclusively on our side, like he's our security blanket. And it reminds me of a movie that me and the fam and my brother used to watch called Fighting Temptations. And they were in this choir, this contest, and they were like, well, don't worry about it, the Lord's on our side. They're like, this is a Christian event, he's on everybody's side. What's the point of all that? If the plan was, I remember my dad even talking about this, if the plan was for him to love you and you to love him, then when you got baptized, shouldn't he just hold you down underwater until you go to heaven and that's it? Shouldn't that's a wrap? If that was the only plan that he had for you, shouldn't we just take you out when we baptize you? Because it's possible for me to worship an idol and call it Jesus. Anything that leads me away from him. Because when we think of Jesus as this security blanket and this guardian angel, you're thinking of Jesus in a completely different way that makes him an idol. Right? when I start to shift him and form him into the way that I need him to be, and you're just blessing me individually and bless me and me and me and pray for me and pray for this and pray for me that and pray for me this, what is that? That's not God's plan. Maybe, and it might be stepping on some people today, and it's not I'm not trying to slight anybody. I'm just trying to make you see maybe things in a different perspective, in a different light. But maybe to you, Jesus resembles like a teddy bear, or something that helps me go to sleep at night, or a father that gives me everything that I want, like he's Santa Claus or something, who doesn't necessarily take sin seriously. These misconceptions and these things that we tend to think Jesus as is the misconceptions of the Bible that lead us to see Jesus and to think of him, not even think of him, we see and start treating him like an idol rather than Jesus and his plan B. We say it all the time, facts over feelings. He loves you, and this was kind of my title for this message, but it's not about you. In the Bible, it says Abraham was blessed. He was going to make him famous. He was going to do all that. And that's some translation in there. That's not what it really says, but it makes sense to kind of this point is he was going to do all these things through Abraham. But it wasn't for him. It was to create this nation to lead to the next part of John 3:16. So everything had a part to play. And he had to bless certain people, and he had to do things for certain people for all these dominoes to fall the right way that they were supposed to. That's the definition of God's plan. God invites us to receive the blessing he gives while asking you to see beyond yourself and extending that blessing, that personal gain that you just got from God. Or we're blessed. What are you doing to extend that blessing? Right? I was looking at, I haven't even told you this, but I was looking at some DMs this week that we get a lot of DMs for prayer requests and things like that for this shift, and we encourage you guys to do that. But we got sent one, and this person was asking for me, can you pray for me because I want to be this or I want to be that. I want someone to love me. I want this to happen for me. I want this to happen for me, my family, my happiness, and my money. What is Jesus to you? Put that in the comments. What is Jesus to you? Ask yourself that. Because if it's just about this guardian angel security blanket, make me happy, make me whole, make me famous, make all this happen, you ain't reading this thing. I only gave you 2 examples, and there are so many more in there. That he blessed people and he worked through people, not for them, but to be a blessing to somebody else and to fulfill the plan and to get to the next level. We're so stuck on level 1. Level 1 thinking. And sometimes that thinking turns Jesus into an idol. What is Jesus to you? Do you focus on the benefits God offers you personally? Or do you remember that we're blessed to be a blessing to someone else? And my last point for you here as we wrap up this entire series is the good news is even greater than our personal experience. God knows and loves us individually, but his commitment is to bless everyone, the world. Not you, not necessarily me, everybody. In John 3:16, like we just said, this is how much God loved, that he gave. And he gave for what? So now everyone who believes in him will never perish. He loves, so he gave, so that everyone. Kind of sounds like a formula, right? He loves, he gave, now everybody. pretty much the wrap for it's not about you. We wrongly assume that God is primarily interested in our individual personal good. Don't get it twisted. That ain't it. What do they say? That ain't it, Chief. I sounded like 80 years old right now. That ain't it, Chief. But yeah, guys, everyone's laughing now. Yeah, guys, that was that was a little bit different, but literally this whole point of us doing this is to challenge and shift perspectives, to see things a little bit closer to the way he does. Because I can't even imagine what, as humans, we can't even imagine. We can't even probably understand the full picture of God's plan because it's just not possible for us as humans. But if that challenged you today, let us know. Send us a DM. Send us some questions. But we're wrapping up this series. We're getting ready to start another one soon. So I hope you guys are excited, and I hope that you guys really enjoyed this series. It was different for us, and we wanted to challenge everybody, different thinking. But until next time, guys, we will see you next week. Peace, fam.